Being a full-time trader is boring. If you're only trading, it's very, very boring. I knew a lot about trading, but putting it into action, I was finding difficult. It was me holding myself back.
What was it that kept you going and staying resilient throughout losses and those tough times?
I think a big part of it was the first year I started trading, I lost about 80 grand. The most I've probably ever lost in a single day was getting on towards 20 grand. I thought, if I give up now, I'm never going to get that back. It got to a point where I had to make a decision. Do I continue trading or do I focus back on the business?
Hello and welcome back to the Alpha Futures YouTube channel. Today in this podcast, we've got Lewis here, a trader who's made over $150,000 in prop firm payouts in his career and has recently received a 12K payout from Alpha Futures. And we're here to find out how you did it, secrets to your success, and really just learn about your story. So Let's start at the beginning, man. How did you come across trading? You know, was it always the plan, or
No.
what did you plan on? You know, what was the plan before that, and how did you get to where you are?
So I originally had a car detailing business, which I started when I was 17 years old. Started that on my mum and dad's drive at home. And
Brilliant. Entrepreneur from the start.
Yeah, basically just washing cars on their driveway. Saved up enough money, bought a van. After I bought the van, got first unit, and then sort of just spiraled it from there, really. Turned it into a bit more of a business than a hobby. And the reason I got into trading was actually a member of staff at the time. So I used to have a few members of staff at the detailing place.
Okay.
One of them was involved in trading. Obviously, I had more staff at that point, so I had more time. He started showing me about trading and then just took a shine to it straight away. After I took that shine, lost a lot of money in the first year of starting trading.
Yeah.
And just not really give up on it since. And yeah, 5 years later, we're now here. Just crossed over $150,000 in the last 8 months with prop firms. But yeah, excited to see where it takes us from here.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's funny because the ones that make it in the end are the ones that just endure, because you say the first year just losing money. So many people have picked up trading, lost a bunch of money and thought, nah, it's not for me.
Yeah.
So what was it that kept you going and staying resilient throughout losses and those tough times?
I think a big part of it was the first year I started trading, I lost about 80 grand of my own money.
Wow.
Yeah, so I thought, if I give up now, I'm never going to get that back.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of determination to want that money back.
Yeah.
That was a big part in why I didn't quit. Second part in I didn't quit is because I had to shut down the detailing business that I had for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Because I was trying to make trading work so bad that it took my attention away from that business. So when it got to a point where I had to make a decision, do I continue trading or do I focus back on the business? My heart was already set in trading at that point.
Wow. Mate, that's such a huge choice to make. I mean, how did you feel at that time between...
It was a very difficult part of my life because obviously I've got a little daughter as well.
Wow.
And at the time she was about 2 years old. So it was like, do I walk away from a business that is generating income to try and start something where I'm not actually making any money from yet?
Yeah.
So it was a hard decision, but you know, life's a risk, trading's a risk, and just had to make it pay off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fact you started your business, car detailing, when you said you were like 16, 17.
17, yeah.
I mean, it shows you've sort of had this mindset that you're not afraid to take a risk and try something. I mean, is that a mindset that you've always had?
This has started since school. I was very much do you remember the guys that was like selling cans of Coke in school and stuff like that? That was me throughout school. I was always doing something. And then after school, it was selling iPhone charger cables on eBay, things like that.
Wow.
So this sort of mindset's been with me from the start, I'd say.
That's amazing. It's funny. I interviewed a trader a couple of weeks ago, and they did the same thing, selling like iPhone chargers and stuff like that.
Yeah. Getting them off, buying them in bulk, AliExpress, unbranded cables.
Yeah.
Selling them on eBay as Apple cables.
Yeah.
Got banned a few times off eBay, but yeah, ultimately it was a good little side hustle.
It's interesting because that's not what you're taught at school, right?
No.
Like at school, it's just like, okay, you learn this so you can get a career as an employee doing something.
Go to university.
So where do you think that drive came from to be an entrepreneur and start business and not go down the usual path?
I think it was just wanting to be different from everyone else. My dad's always had a business of his own. He's always worked for himself. And my mum's always had a 9-to-5 job, stuck in a job, and seeing the difference between the two throughout my life. Obviously, that's led me to want to take the path that I chose.
Yeah, that's amazing actually being able to see that contrast in your own home and seeing, I mean, what struck you as the difference between the two?
It's silly things like some days my dad he'd go in work at 11.
Yeah.
Or he'd take the day off.
Yeah.
My mum would have to book holidays. She'd have to be in work for 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And just seeing that sort of dynamic between the two over and over again, it just made me make my mind up on which one I wanted to be.
Amazing.
And it's always like you get more out of it when you do something for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, if you can go to work on your own, you can earn your own money.
Yeah.
That's a much better feeling than working a 9 to 5.
Completely. And they always say, you know, there's only, if you're an employee, there's only so much that someone will pay you.
Yeah.
Right. But as a boss of your own business and stuff, really the sky's the limit depending on how you scale it and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I guess that comes back again to how difficult it would be to work on that business for 10 years and then to sack it in for...
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard. And it was even harder at the end because I'd watched it kind of break down as well.
Okay.
So obviously it was a successful business at one point.
Yeah.
You know, we had multiple members of staff, and then the last 2 years I'd just kind of seen it fall off.
Yeah.
Especially during COVID.
Yeah.
Took quite a bit of a hit in COVID. So a whole roller coaster of emotions with it, you know, watching it build this big business up from nothing to then seeing it fall apart as well. But ultimately not everything lasts forever as well. So it was time to move on.
And the success you've had now, it shows that, you know, when one door closes, another one opens. If you've got the right mentality, right?
Yeah, you need that mentality because it's a big hit on your mentality as well.
So at what point did you really feel that this trading thing was starting to get traction and, you know, you thought, okay, I can make a go of this? How long did it take for you to really get to that stage where you felt like, you know, it wasn't just something you were dabbling in, it was something that you could potentially make a future with?
I'd probably say I noticed that very early on when I used to trade live capital. Okay. You know, once you started to make money, even though it might be however small the amount was. Yeah. As soon as you start to see that you can make money doing this, that's when it kind of hit me like this is real. This is real shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I think the moment things changed for me was when I got my first ever prop firm payout. Okay. And this was probably about 3.5, 4 years into my career. But as soon as that first payout hit, it's like everything had just paying off. You know what I mean? Yeah. All them hours spent on the charts, all them late nights, early mornings, like that is what kind of made me realize that this is possible.
100%. Yeah. So as far as profitability, you obviously need a strategy, you need all this stuff. Where did that come about? Like, because most people, when they think, oh, I've sort of started getting into trading, you think, I don't know, I'll Google it, I'll get on YouTube, I'll get on social media, I'll try and find videos on how to trade. And like, what did your journey look like actually learning how to do this and finding the way that you trade now? So
I've learned, the way that I trade now, I've kind of learned myself. And I've not really done any courses. The only course I've done was with one. Okay. It was with a firm based in Warrington. Okay. And they had a trading floor as well. Okay. So I did like an in-person time. Yeah, it was an in-person trading course. Wow. And then I spent nearly a year on their trading floor as well. Wow. Trying to sort of learn and grasp their strategy. That whole year was spent unprofitable. Didn't make any money on there. Wow. Yeah. And I was paying quite a lot of money to be on that trading floor as well every month. And then once I left there, that was when I had to make the decision to close the business down, because I thought, I've spent all this money on this trading floor, I'm not really getting anywhere with it, can't seem to grasp it, can't seem to get some sort of strategy or a system nailed down. Yeah. So... And if you were there full, like... Yeah, that's, in person, that's always taking you away from your business. That's why the business took such a hit, because most of my time was spent there. Yeah. So when I come back to it, the business, I realised that, you know, it wasn't what it was before I went there. Yeah. That's when I had to make a decision to either stick at trading or focus back on the business. Man. But what a decision to make, like, after having that time, you've put all that time and effort into it and you still haven't made any money, and then you've got to decide if you're going to go on full time. Like, what was it in your mind that made you think, despite all of this, I am still going to figure this out? Like, that's... Just didn't want to quit. Just had an urge not to quit. Wow. Yeah. Because the more time went on, the more I couldn't walk away from it. Because it's like I'm investing more and more time and money into this thing. So, you know, ultimately, you just got to see it through. Okay. So
you spent a year on this trading floor, you haven't found profitability, and now you're deciding, okay, we'll do this full time. So now what's the next step as far as finding a strategy or a plan, or finding, getting yourself to the stage where you could finally start making some proper money?
So yeah, obviously I've made bits of money throughout that time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying every day was losing day.
Yeah.
But overall, I'd invested more than I was making.
Yes.
And I'd not long discovered prop firms.
Yes.
So going from sort of live trading to prop firms was completely different again. So after those 3.5, 4 years that I'd spent learning, I knew a lot about trading, and I was very good at knowing about trading, but putting it into action, I was finding difficult. So once I left the trading floor and ultimately made the decision to focus on this full time, I went more into education. So I'd started teaching people. Even though I wasn't physically making money myself, I knew how to trade.
Yeah, you felt like you knew enough about it that you could
I
help.
knew enough about it, and I was quite good with psychology side of things. So ultimately I launched a Discord, launched a little small community, had some students and stuff, and I was seeing success in these students, which was quite frustrating for me because I wasn't necessarily making money at this point, but I was showing people how to make money through trading.
Yeah.
So that was quite difficult, but I was getting something back. I was getting something out of it. I was seeing sort of fulfillment in seeing others win. So that was how I got into education side of it. And then I basically had a little talk with myself, and I said, how can I know all this stuff and that I can pass on to others and they can utilize the information to make money?
Yeah.
So why can't I?
Yeah.
So ultimately I became a sort of a student to myself. So I was trying to just focus on what I'm teaching them. And I was like, right, well, if I just do that, then I'm going to see results.
Yeah.
So, because the proof was in the pudding with the students. They was taking on the advice, they was taking on the guidance, they was following a system, they was following a set of rules, and they was seeing results. It was me holding myself back.
Wow.
So when I started to do that, that was when I started to get these payouts coming in. And it was all just as simple as sticking to sort of a system, a rules-based system, keeping track of your psychology, and just following a plan.
Wow. So what do you think really tipped you over the edge as far as what did you implement to fix that psychology and to get yourself to stick to a plan and things like that? Was it like, journaling and...
Yeah, journaling, not necessarily back testing because my sort of system or model worked.
Yes.
So I didn't really need to back test that anymore. But small little changes made such a big difference, like having a daily routine.
Yeah.
Making sure I'm not trading in the morning session and I go to the gym or I go out for a walk. Get things in sort of order to get your sort of mental state right before coming into the trading session. Because then when you come into that trading session, for me, it's New York, I've had all morning to sort of prepare. And then when I can come into the trading session with this, checklist or entry requirements for taking a trade, I just noticed I was thinking a lot clearer and things just started to make sense a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed something similar in myself, that I have to wake up early, meditate, get on my elliptical machine for half an hour, like no music, no phone, no nothing, just sweat it out, get my mind in the right state, have a shower, sit down, then hit the charts, plan out for, however long. If I'd sort of, I've woken up 2 hours late, let me just get on the charts and try and find something. It's like, just can't
You're
trade.
setting yourself up for failure, basically. Yeah,
100%. Because it is, I mean, you're not like an athlete, but it's almost like being a performance athlete where you're there to do a job where you have to be performing at a high level, right? So you kind of have to prepare yourself for that. You can't just expect yourself to just be able to, like
you can't just sit in bed and make 10 grand.
Yeah.
You can,
yeah,
but doing that over and over again, you can't do.
No.
When you start to have this sort of structure in your life and you're trading in a much clearer mindset, then you start to see results. So once you start to get everything else in check, you'll start to see the results coming from trading.
100%. Yeah, and I guess when it comes to that self-development side of things and trying to improve yourself as a trader, that's when you start to, like say, see those results further down the line.
Yeah.
I mean, how long in total did the journey take you from when you started to when you sort of got your first payout? You said it was...
Well, the first ever payout I got was probably about 9 months ago, 8 or 9 months ago now.
Yeah.
So I'd probably say 3.5 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Took to get that first prop payout. Obviously, I used to trade live.
Yeah.
For best part of 2-3 years.
Yeah.
So I did make money. I did make withdrawals and stuff before.
Yeah.
But first ever prop firm payout was about 8-9 months ago.
Yeah. And how do you find trading prop firm versus trading personal capital? Like,
I personally think it's a lot better because you have a lot more rules to follow.
Yeah.
When you trade in live capital, like anything goes. And I don't trade with a stop loss. So it can be very sort of dangerous, and it has been in the past.
Yeah.
To blow up accounts. So for me, prop firms was they're worth the weight in gold because
yes,
I know that if I blow this evaluation or this funded account, it's cost me what, $400, $800 at most.
Yeah.
That could be 20 grand on a live account.
That's true. Just sort of dust yourself off and start again.
Yeah.
And it's funny as well because so many people criticize prop firms. Like the biggest criticism levied at prop firms is the rules. Oh yeah, you can trade with them, but you've got this rule and this rule and this rule. But those rules actually keep you in the right trading.
Yeah. That's what a lot of people don't see. These rules are put there to serve a purpose, not only for the prop firm. They're there to protect the prop
100%.
firm, but they're also there to protect the trader.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people don't see.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you do sort of take these rules on board and implement them into your trading, you'll start to see results.
Exactly. Because when people say, oh, if I just put that in a personal account, I can do whatever I want with it, which is true. But it's one of those be careful what you wish for, right? Because you can instantly liquidate
Speaking from
yourself.
experience, I've lost a lot of money trading live. Like I say, first year was about £8,000, not dollars, pounds.
Wow.
And the most I've probably ever lost in a single day was getting on towards 20 grand.
Wow.
That is impossible to do, trading prop firms.
Yeah.
So for me, this is why I'd highly recommend prop firms to anyone.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think the prop firms, trading in general, but prop trading is the single best opportunity of our generation to build wealth.
Yeah. A perfect example, Alpha Futures, I've probably spent $500-600 in total to receive $12,000 in a payout. So you look at the return on investment on that.
Yeah, what other business has got an ROI like that?
Exactly. It's insane. If I need to go make that same return on investment on a live account, it's going to take me a hell of a lot longer than 5-6 weeks.
Yeah, 100%. And even that, to have an account where the actual nominal value of it is high enough that you can make 3% on it, 4% on it, and that's a large amount of money. Whereas if you've got that $400 and put it in a live account, you've got to flip that thing multiple times to make a decent, right? This is it. So you think, if I made 3% on $100, you made £3. It's nothing, right? So, actually having that leverage, if you will, to trade with an amount of capital that allows you to manage risk and all this stuff properly, that's really the benefit of it, right?
Yeah. Prop firms are great.
Cool.
Prop firms are great.
Yeah. So do you still have a community and teach and all that stuff?
Yeah. I've gone into it a lot more now as well.
Okay.
Because I feel like being a full-time trader, it is boring. If you're only trading, it's very, very boring.
Yeah. And kind of lonely.
Yeah, lonely as well. Yeah, like I was going around the bend. Like I had nothing else to do apart from trade. I was just looking at charts all day.
Yeah.
And what I found with that is the more time I'm spending on the charts, the more money I'm losing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a blessing in disguise having the education side of things because it makes me feel like I've got a purpose, or it makes me feel like I'm going to a job.
Yes.
So let's say I've got a one-to-one call booked at 9 a.m. I know I have to be at work for 9 a.m. Got to be in the office and ready to work. Then I know that my trading hours now are very limited. I only really trade between the hours of like 1 and 3.
Okay.
So I know when that time comes, that's my trading time and I can lock in for the session. Whereas before, it was like I could trade whenever I wanted throughout the day. So there was no consistency there.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, because having the freedom to sort of trade whenever you want is, I guess, a benefit that people will kind of tout that, you can trade at any time of the day. But again, it's one of those be careful what you wish for things, right? Yeah. You kind of have to think, do I want to be there at 9 o'clock at night on a Friday on the charts?
Exactly. The markets are open 23 hours a day.
Yeah.
You try and trade 23 hours a day, Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. And I think a lot of people coming into trading, they'll make, let's say they make 200 quid on a trade.
Yeah.
They think, well, if I've just done that in an hour, the markets are open 23 hours a day. Can I just replicate this for every hour of the day?
Yeah.
It's not going to work. You're going to end up losing more than you're winning.
100%. So having a set time, again, having sort of set rules of, okay, these are my trading hours. This is my setup. You said you've got your checklist of what you need to see and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that keeps it very structured.
Mechanical.
Right? Which allows you to kind of do the same thing every day and have that routine. And
yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Routine's huge part in my trading. Huge part.
Yeah. And it's also something.
And I notice, I'm not trying to sit here and say I follow that routine strategically every single day.
Well, human,
I still make mistakes. But I notice when I don't stick to that plan or I don't stick to my routine, if I've not been to the gym or I've not been out for a walk in the morning, I know my results aren't as good as they should be.
Yeah.
So the proof's in the pudding of it.
Yeah. And how do you keep accountable for that? Like, do you journal every day or just sit on the weekend and kind of sum up what you've done? Or...
To be fair, I'm at a point in my trading now where I don't really journal that much.
Yeah.
Because I know my system works.
Yeah.
And I know what I've got to do to make it work.
Yeah.
But
and if you miss the gym that day, you already know that. You don't need to write it down
I don't
need
need
to
realise.
realise. Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like when I was learning, especially, back testing, journaling, all those things was super, super important. I used to use TradeZeller for my sort of back testing stuff. And even like the daily journal in there, just writing things down. But I feel like I'm at a point now where I don't need to do that every day.
Yeah.
I'll still do it maybe once a week or a weekend or something like that. I'll have a review of the trades because trading, you need to be adaptive with trading as well.
Yeah.
So I might still make small tweaks to my sort of the way that I trade, but without being able to journal and back test, I won't be able to see where I'm going wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. You still need to stay sharp.
Yeah.
And that is the thing with staying on top of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as your journey so far, again, to ask the question, what would you have told yourself 3 or 4 years ago? The fact is, like, there's nothing you could have just told yourself that would have got you to where you are today, because it's a journey, it's a process, right? But equally, throughout that journey, you've learned some important lessons. So what piece of advice would you say you would go back and give yourself when you started, or on that day when you sort of had to make that decision between your business and where you are now? What do you think you would go back and give yourself as advice?
A big one for me is let go of your ego.
Okay.
Because I feel like I was holding myself back a lot. Like I say, I don't trade with a stop loss, and I don't like to lose. So sometimes that's what used to lead me to blow accounts on my live account, because I just didn't want to be wrong about a setup and sort of marrying the trade.
Yeah.
So I'd feel like let go of your ego. Everyone has an ego. Mine's just bigger than most. But let go of that. And once I started to let go of that, I'm wrong about this trade idea. Let's just cut it off here. Let's take this loss here. Then I noticed that my losses were a lot smaller. And then I noticed that when I was winning, it was winning more than I was losing. Because at the start, I used to have a negative risk to reward system overall.
Okay.
Because I had a higher win rate, but when I lost, it was 3 times more than what I was winning.
Yeah.
And that's just how I was in my journey. I'm not saying it's right, but when you can start to accept a loss and start to, winning more than you're losing, not just in a win rate, but as the amount as well.
Yeah.
That's when I started to see results.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, that's what it comes down to. The trade-in equation is just how much you win versus how much you lose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And if you end up on top at the end of it all.
Yeah.
So actually, speaking about trading specifically, and your strategy, and you said that you've got a system now. How did you figure out what your system was? Because you said, I've got these criteria, and is it stuff that you've sort of picked up from mentorships in the past, or stuff that you've noticed on the charts yourself from back testing, or what did you kind of combine to get to your current way of trading? Yeah,
so I'd probably say the core of my strategy is where I spent most of my time on the trading floor. I don't follow that strategy. I've took bits of other strategies. I've taken bits of ICT. I use liquidity and stuff now, which none of that I was taught on the trading floor that I was on. But I've kind of molded bits and bobs of loads of different strategies and just come up with my own. And ultimately, it's about finding confluence, because obviously, are you familiar with ICT?
Yeah.
So obviously you know what fair value gaps are.
Yeah.
You know how many are printed in a day. They're everywhere,
Yeah.
no matter what time frame you're on. But which ones work? Why has that one worked and that one hasn't? So ultimately, that's what I do with fair value gaps now, is I'll combine them with other strategies. So I'll align them with sort of break and retest areas, psychological key levels on gold, for example. And what I notice is that's what makes a fair value gap work. So even though now my entry model is very, very simple, there's a lot of thought process gone into finding that trade.
Amazing.
So my entry criteria is just, do I have a fair value gap to enter off? It's as simple as that.
Wow.
But there's a lot more to the overall trade. Where am I targeting?
Yeah.
That goes into it. Am I trading with the trend? Am I trading counter trend?
Yeah.
And ultimately, I always ask myself, if I'm trading on, say, the 1 hour time frame, I'll always envision, like, where do I see these next 3 or 4 1 hour candles printing? Where's price going to go? So if I can get a good understanding of where price wants to go, and I've got an entry confirmation, such as a fair value gap, I'll just ride that to where I'm expecting price to go.
Wow.
And it's as simple as that.
And I guess that's where the experience of staring at a chart for so long
Yeah,
comes in, that
exactly,
you can sort of see, this is where I think price is going to end up going.
So sometimes now I can look at the chart and I think there's an obvious attraction with where price wants to go.
Yeah.
And it just clicks so much that all those hours spent sort of looking at charts and back testing and trying to add all these confluences in to take a trade, like it's kind of bullshit, but it's there for a reason. Like I did all that for a reason. And the reason is it makes my trading a lot more easier now.
Yes.
That I can just take a very simple fair value gap entry, but because I've got a good understanding of where price wants to go, that's what gives me the trade.
Yeah. Well, the definition of mastery is making something complicated look simple.
Yeah.
Right? So if you said to someone who's never looked at a chart before, this is what a fair value gap is, they could learn that in 15 minutes.
Yeah,
if you just
exactly.
say, okay, wait for one of those, and they're not going to be profitable from that, right? It's the years that you've put in of being able to say, based on the trend and higher time frames and stuff like that, this is where I feel that our price is going to go. And these are even just subconscious things you don't really put a lot of conscious thought into, is the things you are going to notice, right? Just from all the time. So do you do like multi-time frame analysis? And
Yeah. So I don't really use it. I used to use the daily quite a lot, but I don't use the daily much anymore. It's mainly 4 hour, 1 hour and 15 minute. They're the only 3 time frames that I'll particularly look at now.
Yeah. And you execute on any of those time frames, or
try and stick to higher, obviously. Higher time frame has higher power, but 4 hours always there for my direction. Where am I expecting price to go throughout the day or throughout the session? And then I'll drop down to the 1 hour. Do I have my entry criteria on the 1 hour? No. So I'll drop down to the 15. If I don't find it on the 15, there's no trade. But if I do find it on the 15 and the 1 hour, I'll always favor the higher time frame.
Nice.
Over the 15 minute.
Nice. And I guess having those criteria at a particular time of the day, you can just look at those candles and say it's either set up or it hasn't.
Basically, yeah. And I'll always use the 15 minute to determine my exit point for if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But I'll always use the higher time frame, the 4 hour for my direction for the take profit.
That's a smart way of doing it, actually, of cutting your losses short on the lower time frames if it's not playing out.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, you want to cut your losses quick, right? And then let the winners run using that high time frame.
I'll never use the 15 minute to dictate where my take profits are.
Brilliant.
Because I'll always have that higher time frame bias in mind. So if I'm expecting price to go here on the 4 hour, why am I going to drop down to the 15 minute to then take it up here? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I'll always stick to my TPs or my take profits on the higher time frame, but I want to cut those if I'm wrong. So I'll look at sort of market structure and highs and lows on the 15 minute to determine whether I should get out of that trade or not.
Smart. Yeah, and actually being able to have that higher time frame mentality and saying, kind of ignoring a bit of the noise on the lower time frames as well, is like, that's sometimes a hard thing to do, right? And when you say psychology, sometimes you'll be in a trade and all of a sudden you're like, oh no, the 5 minutes pulling back, I should.
Yeah, exactly. You're not looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
You're not looking at the bigger picture. I've been there and done it. I've tried scalping. It's not for me.
Yeah.
Not for me. I've been on the 1 minute chart. I've took 1 minute trades. It's been great. But like I said to you before, I'm not really the type of person that likes to lose.
Yeah.
So if you're trading on the 1 minute, you might have a great risk to reward, but your win rate's probably 20%, 30%, which can still be profitable, but not for me.
Yeah, no.
It affects my psychology too much.
I do find that with strategies that have a low win rate but a high risk to reward, if you were a robot, that's one thing. But as a human, to actually lose 5, 6, 7, 8 trades in a row,
it's hard to
by the end of it, you're just feeling beaten up, man.
Yeah.
It's hard to step up there with the same focus and everything you would just fresh.
Yeah.
So yeah, having
you could spend an hour scalping on the 1 minute and you'll feel like you worked a 10-hour day.
Yeah.
At the end of it.
Yeah, 100%. So you got a 12K payout from Alpha Futures. And you said you've been trading with Alpha Futures for like a couple of months or
6 weeks, I'd say.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
Amazing. So
Alpha Capital, I've been trading with them for, over a year. Well, around it. Yeah, about a year.
Brilliant. And how much payout from Alpha Capital as well?
Lifetime is 30K, I think.
Wow.
Or just over 30K.
Crushing it.
Yeah. But I've not traded CFDs since being introduced to futures.
Okay. So what is it about futures that you prefer? Because that's quite a big deal, especially if you're used to like doing all the prop trading and stuff. To just say, okay, I want to focus on the futures side. What is it about the futures side that's?
For one, they're a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So I have the mentality on evaluations like I'm high risk.
Okay.
Don't like to spend too long on evaluations. So from a cost point of view, it makes more sense to go with futures because they're a lot cheaper.
Okay.
Second point is that easier to pass. They're only a one-phase challenge. Third point is there's no spreads. I feel like the trading conditions are unmatched with futures. The platform, AlphaTix, is unreal. Everything's like super clean. Copy trading, the scalability. There's just so many boxes that get ticked on futures after trading CFDs for so long.
And how did you find the learning curve going from one to the other? Is it just like to pick up another bit of software?
For me, it was no different. It was no different. The charts are the same. They've just got different names. I mainly trade gold.
Yeah.
So I've gone from trading XAU USD to trading GC, but the charts are the same.
Yeah.
They still moves the same. Sometimes you get a bit of a difference in price, the actual specific price at the time.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's the same. So the transition for me from CFDs to futures was, it's like I'd not changed.
Yeah. So you're still just doing
better.
You're charting on TradingView or whatever, and you just executing on AlphaTix instead of with MT4 or whatever.
MT5, yeah. I used to use MT5.
Oh, amazing. I mean, it's good to see. It's funny. So many traders that we speak to with Alpha Futures say they wouldn't go back to trading CFDs afterwards.
I wouldn't.
It's just better overall trading conditions and everything like that.
Yeah, well, I can get like free evaluations for the same price as one CFD evaluation.
Yeah,
it makes more sense to me.
Absolutely. And even I guess the spread doesn't make as much difference if you're trading on like the 1 hour and the 4 hour and stuff like that. But still,
but it's good
having good trading conditions is important as well.
Yeah,
right?
Good trading conditions, you need it. Because not necessarily about your entry, but your stop loss, for example.
Yes.
Or you take profit. Sometimes I've had to take profits missed by spread.
Yes.
And it's so frustrating knowing that your trade idea was right, but you've not been took out of your position.
Yeah.
So if you're not actively monitoring that, come back to your phone or your computer an hour later and you're back at break even, it's like so frustrating.
Yeah, demoralizing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So having that proper
trading conditions, yeah. Like no spreads, it's great.
Makes a massive difference. Mm-hmm. As far as advice for anyone watching who's where you were a few years ago, putting in the work, they've been doing this for 6 months, a year, and they're still not quite seeing success, not seeing what, they're not where they want to be. What advice would you give to those people?
Simply put, just don't give up. If you've got a passion for this and you can see where you want to take it, just don't give up because the results will come. Another point I'll make is find yourself a good mentor, because I've had them in the past, as I spoke about before, and it just wasn't the right mentor for me. So I'd wasted so much time and money with the wrong mentor.
Yeah.
So invest in someone. I always say to yourself, like, get a mentor for someone where you want to be. So if you want to put yourself in their shoes, that is the mentor that you should go for. There's no point in getting one that trades a different style to you, because you're just going to end up wasting time and money.
100%.
So put yourself in the shoes of someone you'd want to be, and that's how you'll find the mentor for you.
That's it. And it's important to have good guidance because obviously
they can show you a lot of shortcuts.
Yeah.
They can save you a lot of time. They can save you a lot of stress. Can save you a hell of a lot of money. And I feel like it's important to have someone there to speak to. The feedback I get from my students is what they love most is the fact that I'm there. So like if they're having an issue or they've not had a great trading day, it's just having that little bit of a relief to speak to someone about it. Because if you don't have anyone, you just sat with your own thoughts.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. But yeah, best piece of advice is just don't give up.
Brilliant. Amazing. And as far as not giving up goes, where do you see yourself in the next couple of years, or what does the future hold? What's the plans?
I really want to take off the education side a lot more.
Yep.
I want to make it more accessible to a lot more people. I want to launch sort of an online course because it's a lot one-to-one based at the moment, so it does take up a lot of my time.
Yeah.
So I want to streamline the whole education side a little bit. And yeah, just continue trading really. Keep growing these accounts and getting payouts.
Amazing. Well, that's it. Well, hopefully onwards and upwards, mate. It sounds like the success you've had so far should just continue on into the future. So
yeah, hopefully a lot more with Alpha Futures as well.
Hope so, man. Happy that it's gone so well so far and that you've been happy with the conditions and everything and the payouts and all the good stuff. Cool.
Right.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for coming down and spending time with us.
Thank you very much.
We're glad that you've had so much success with Alpha Futures and that you've enjoyed the process and hopefully continue to trade with Alpha Futures and get those payouts in the future.
100%. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, you're very welcome. Okay, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Subscribe, like, follow us on all the socials, and come back next time for another amazing podcast. Cheers.